Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in. Pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, insanely enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, April 30th, 2024. This is live stream number 1049. Zoinks! If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. And then I will normally pontificate about a topic related to our hobby. And tonight will be no different. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Also, because this is a live stream, there is chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber right now for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you meet those two items, the criteria there, and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out the gate tonight, good friend of the show and one of our chat moderators, the Madman is with us, as is Semper Buffo, Geraldine, Viper Dave, Matthew Blackwell, and Tony Urquides are all right here in chat right at the beginning of the show. Welcome to everybody. I would also not be surprised if the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D happens to be hanging out in the shadows, maybe a little off stage, keeping an eye on things. Anything's possible. I have a feeling she might be lurking a bit. So very nice, very nice. Descendant Droog is also joining us in chat. Welcome aboard. Anyway, you might be wondering, is Jeff going to, pick up and run with what he was talking about on Thursday's show? No, I am not. I said what I had to say. Although the funny thing is, I could probably fill 2 whole shows with the aftermath of my Zeet and the video I had shared. But I'm not gonna. Although I have to say, I found it very interesting that the vast majority of people out there were kind of agreeing with my take. Descendant Droog says, looking forward to the show. Going to be in the background as they're prepping Masks of Nyarlathotep. At least that's how I pronounce it. Starting session 1 Sunday for their group. Wish you luck. Yes, good luck. It's a fantastic campaign. I will say that the latest edition that came out from Chaosium Inc. It almost sometimes feels like there's just too much. It's not really the case. I mean, nobody's going to ever check out every single aspect of that campaign. But wow, if you need a few years of content for your Call of Cthulhu game, you don't need to look any further than Masks of Nyarlathotep. Very nice. Sarah D is with us, says lurking. Kevin R. Smith is also popping on in, as has Testy Trekkie. Very cool. Let's jump right on into the news, because the Savage Worlds Legend of Ghost Mountain box set is now making its way into stores. Here's the latest from Pinnacle Entertainment Group. Ghost Mountain is a sacred site containing a physical gate to the underworld, and the ghost wardens who reside there are dedicated to making sure the souls of the dead pass peacefully through to the afterlife. But something has gone wrong. The dead revel in unprecedented numbers and commit atrocities against the living. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be the dead rebel, not rebel. Only the ghost wardens can set things right. This is the story of those heroes as their trials and deeds become legend. Legend of Ghost Mountain box set requires Savage Worlds to play, so you do have to have the Savage Worlds Adventure Edition and able to use all the goodies in this box set, but it contains everything else needed to bring the action and adventure to the table. It includes the Legend of Ghost Mountain core book, 192 pages containing options for creating heroes, a history and gazetteer of the setting, encounter tables, and an adventure generator. The Face the Inevitable plot point campaign itself, and a vast bestiary of various foes. There's also Ghost Warden archetypes. More than just simple archetype cards, these full sheets contain each iconic warden's story and descriptions of their powers. The plot point campaign has specific hooks to weave these characters into the story if they're used. There's the Legend of Ghost Mountain Pawns, 6 sheets of creatures and characters, beautiful full-color art front and back on 1.5 millimeter punch board cut to match the figure's silhouette. Easy to transport, hundreds of figures, and no painting needed. Bring on the epic tactical action. 2 double-sided fold-out poster maps with unique tactical arenas for kung fu action straight from the plot point campaign. A gorgeous map of the Central Empire to track your Ghost Warden's progress as they choose their path and race across the country to face the inevitable army. A 3-panel Game Master screen with info on emotion and martial arts for the setting, along with handy tables for encounters and generating haunts. Inside that is also a 32-page adventure, The Ashen Monk Uprising, where your wardens can continue their adventures. There's a new action deck themed with characters, monsters, and art from the setting to better immerse your players into the action, as well as a set of Savage Worlds dice and a special wild die to put the feel of the Central Empire in your hands, as well as a full set of bennies for when the fists start to fly. I think there's also like an army tracker mat. It's not mentioned here, but I have seen it mentioned in other places, so that is possible. It is possible that they do have, it looks like it's probably cardstock. Anyway, this box set is now arriving in stores. It carries an MSRP of $149.99. If you want to just grab the hardcover, you can. That carries an MSRP of $39.99. Or just grab the PDF alone over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. Gotta say, a lot of Asian-infused fantasy has been hitting recently. We've got this. We also have the previous adventure path for Pathfinder, Season of Ghosts, which was a 4-parter, which I really liked. Actually, one of my favorite of the Pathfinder adventure paths recently. So I thought that was very well done too. So kind of cool. And it looks like the Madman actually has this. Says, I need to take time to go through my Kickstarter copy of Legend of Ghost Mountain. Looks really interesting and fun from what little they've seen. That's kind of, I know the Madman is a huge fan of Savage Worlds. So I almost started to chuckle there because it's like, Yeah, I backed it on Kickstarter. I don't know what's in it, but I bought it. Garland says, I've never played Savage Worlds. I will be this Friday for the first time as the game master in the group they're a player in wanted a break from Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Looking forward to trying it out. Very nice. Very cool. I will say that Savage Worlds has, depending on what setting you're going to be diving on into, it actually has a good amount of customization for your player characters. So, granted, not as much as Pathfinder 2nd Edition, but there aren't a whole lot of role-play games out there that have that amount of customization for your character. But you will be able to craft a pretty unique character. Very nice. Very nice. Perkins Dearborn and Nero's Fiddle are joining us in chat. Matthew Blackwell says they've got tons of Pathfinder pawns. They bought a ton when they started becoming scarce. Perkins says, I need a regular game group to dig into more game content, like Ghost Mountain. Ooh, scary kids, scary. Not really. It's just because it's Ghost Mountain. I don't think it's, and it's undead, but I think it's more, I know, here we go. I'm going to butcher the genre. Wuxia? I think that's where this leans, is how that works. Moving right along, also hitting stores is Ruins of Symborum 5e, The World of Symborum, from my friends over at Free League Publishing. Here's the skinny. Welcome to a world of mystery and adventure, of clashing cultures and ideals, a world constantly under threat from the darkness of the eternal night. This book expands on the lore and setting information presented in the Ruins of Symborum Game Master's Guide. It delves deep into the ancient history of the game world, and aside from general descriptions of people, places, and historical events, it provides the game master with lots of plot hooks and secrets, along with no less than 7 detailed adventure landscapes centered around the ruins in the forest of Davakar. The World of Symborum contains a player's section, introducing the game world's main settlements, Thistlehold, Indaros, and Karvosti in great detail. An in-depth look at the main settlement's history, memorable events, factions, conflicts, and establishments. A Game Master's section describing what hides beneath the surface with 18 historical secrets and 34 plot hooks. Plus, 7 adventure landscapes for characters of 5th to 10th level, complete with conflicts, events, maps, and colorful NPCs. Do want to point out, this book does require access to the Ruins of Symborum 5e core setting books, which are the Player's Guide, Game Master's Guide, and Bestiary. You can snag the 252-page hardcover with PDF for an MSRP of $44.99. The PDF just became available, I think it was today, over on DriveThruRPG for $24.99. Sweet. I like the World of Symborum. I really do. I think it is a very cool, dark, fairy tale sort of landscape without being grimdark. I know it's kind of weird. You might be saying, well, wait a second. How is it? How do you do that? How is it like a dark fairy tale, but it's not grimdark? Easy. Because the evil dark lord has destroyed almost the entire world before being defeated. But there's still remnants out there. Very cool. And the Forest of Davakar is pretty sweet too. So I should mention, I will have a review of Ruins of Symborum, the World of Symborum, very shortly, because my friends over at Free League Publishing sent me this copy. Very nice, very nice. Let's see, Roger Perdome, Ziggy 7800 Pro, and Jose Fernandez are with us in chat. I'm just double checking. Oh, Keldon has popped in. Good to see you, Keldon. Just making sure I've said hello to everybody. Tessie Trekkie also points out, Free League dropped the beta PDF for the Electric State role-playing game last night. It's a deeply, deeply weird game. Tessie Trekkie says, it's not grimdark because there's hope and the big bad can be defeated again. Yes. I'll be the first to mention, I have not really delved too deeply into the various different adventures in that, which are for Symborum, because there's Symborum and there's Ruins of Symborum. Symborum, or some people call it Symborum. I thought it's Symborum, but you know me. I mispronounce, fictional people, places, and things all the time. They're both the same setting, and like the adventures are the same. It's just Symborum has its own, well, it's based on, no, actually, it's not, is it? I'm trying to remember. I don't think it's the Year Zero engine. It's been so long since I took a peek because Sammy's been doing the reviews of Symborum. In fact, there is the Throne of Thorns campaign, which is 6 parts. She has reviewed all 6 parts. Those are actually coming to Ruins of Symborum. In fact, I might have a news piece about that later on this week. Yes. Calvin says, from what it sounds, the darkness dials up the deeper into the forest you go. So it's like shades of darkness. One of the cool things about this system, well, I should say this setting, not necessarily system, because Ruins of Symborum is built on 5e, is that the forests are primordial forests, which most of us, especially here in the United States, have no clue of what those are really like. We see forest here, and we're like, oh, wow. This is creepy. I hate to be stuck out here alone. You might as well be hanging out outside 7-Eleven compared to what it's like with a primordial forest. I thought, for some reason, there's an area in Poland that's near the Russian border that is just pristine forest, that it's actually closed off from people actually going in there. So it is pretty much untouched, and it is just thick, thick forest that you could barely make your way through if you tried. Anyway, so Ruins of Symborum, the world of Symborum, out in stores, out in PDF. If you are interested, check it out. Next news piece, now available in stores too, is the Cthulhu Awakens role-playing game hardcover from Green Ronin Publishing. Here's what I know. A Century of Nightmares. Cthulhu Awakens brings cosmic horror and the Cthulhu mythos from the unimaginable past through the 1920s and into the 21st century. Delve into the secrets of the Roaring '20s a century ago, then track aliens and cults through wars, the broken atom, and the rise of digital and genetic technologies. Crack open ancient tomes under antique lamplight or under the harsh glow of your smartphone in the here and now. Contend with deep one cults, Yithian agents, and horrific revelations that can be found anywhere from the backstreets of Arkham to vast underground realms and even dreams. Cthulhu Awakens synthesizes, reimagines, and expands the Cthulhu mythos into a setting specifically designed for inclusive role-playing. Cthulhu Awakens uses the age system Same one that powers games such as Fantasy Age, Modern Age, Blue Rose, and The Expanse. Open this book of secrets and discover the following: a complete horror and weird adventure game for the adventure game engine. That's Age. An easy-to-learn system with over a decade of development behind it. A setting that evolves the Cthulhu mythos into a universe designed for games set throughout the 20th and 21st centuries. A world that tears away the biases of its source material to support a wider variety of protagonists and the secrets behind unreliable sources. The threat of alienation, where horror inspires dangerous revelations. Bonds that give your characters beliefs and relationships power. A stunt system that punctuates success with drama, whether because of your character's uncanny ability or because the creatures and cultists who oppose you attain some dark victory. Eldritch workings that break the boundaries between science and magic. Anyone can cast them if they're willing to learn the lore and pay the price. Psychic powers, strange artifacts, and mystic tomes. A collection of non-player characters and mythos horrors, from hard-bitten private eyes, the sorcerers, shoggoths, and the tendril from beyond. Also includes 2 adventures, one set in the 1930s and one in the modern day. Cthulhu Awakens is a complete game, but is substantially compatible with other Age games. All you need is 3 6-sided dice, writing materials, and friends ready for weird stories. The 288-page hardcover carries an MSRP of $59.95. If you want to just grab the PDF, you can do so over at, you guessed it, Drive-Thru RPG for a rocking price of, is it $19.95? For some strange reason, I think I may have mistyped that. I think it might be $29.95. Actually, I think it is. I think I may have just mistyped that. Oh! Kevin R. Smith says they should say a little about the hardcover that just arrived last week. Tessie Trekkie says, yet another Cthulhu Mythos role-playing game. That makes 25 that they're aware of. Oh, I'm sure if we counted like small indies, we're way past 25. The thing is, there's no copyright. It's public domain. No one owns the copyright. No one owns the rights to H.P. Lovecraft's work because he had no family after he passed. So I know that Arkham House claimed that they had the rights to it. I don't think that would have been the case. I do not think so. Omanal is hanging out with us in chat. Good to see you. We had a nice chat rocking and rolling tonight. But I'm cool with this. It's a little bit different. So that's one of the things that drew me to this. I know I've shared news about this before, but what drew me to this is that it's giving you everything in one book that kind of covers 100 years. So you are getting the classic 1920s, 1930s mythos setting, but you're also getting information about modern games. I would take a guess that probably the content devoted to the periods between the 1920s and 30s and now probably aren't extensive. But I do like the fact that it is tackling both the classic and modern in one book. I do think that's pretty cool. Don't know. Kevin R. Smith is the one who's going to have to point out if it's any good or not. Chris Lundgren's with us. So is Kathy Evans. Welcome to you both. And Pete Strakulich is also popping on in. Kevin R. Smith says only some of his stories are in the public domain now. though they all should be because there's no evidence the copyright was renewed or transferred to anybody. Right. August Derleth just was a fan. I don't even think that he was someone who corresponded with Lovecraft. I might be wrong, but I know he formed Arkham House mostly to publish Lovecraft's work and others. Quite a few authors kind of got their start outside of the pulps. They'd been published in the pulps prior. But yeah, kind of cool. Kind of cool. I'll be the first to point out I am not all that well versed with the copyright. What would be the term I'd want to use? Situation as far as H.P. Lovecraft's work. Just like when Call of Cthulhu first came out, they had an agreement with Arkham House because Arkham House was still operating at that time, that they were going to be producing a role-playing game, and they were the only ones authorized to do so. The reality is, anybody could have done it. So Kevin R. Smith says the coherent timeline is really awesome. You have established historical events that you can easily jump into any period without having to make up your own background lore. Very cool. Very nice. Chris Lundgren asks, of Lovecraft's books, which one do I recommend you read first? Well, the reality is that depending on what book you get your hands on, they could have all different stories. Personally, I had gotten the audiobook. I want to say there's 3 audiobooks. I don't even know if you can still get them here in the U.S. One is The Dreamlands, mainly focuses on the Dreamlands. One is called Necronomicon, and I forget the other, but it's actually all his mythos stories, and it's a variety of different narrators, some of them very well known. Bronson Pinchot, as an example, is one of them. In fact, if I remember correctly, he narrates Whisper in the Darkness, which is pretty good. I would say if you're going to delve into Lovecraft, I'm a huge fan of At the Mountains of Madness. I don't know if that's necessarily the best introduction because it is a novella. It's not a short story. It's a bit longer than that. Tell you what you could do if you like audiobooks, go to thegaminggang.com, do a search for At the Mountains of Madness, and there is a BBC 4 audio series that they did at the Mountains of Madness, which I actually edited and shared as one episode for Halloween. So check that out. It's actually really, really well done. They also had Shadow over Innsmouth, although they kept calling it Innsmouth, which is like, okay. Tony Urquidy says, Penguin Publishing puts out a few collected books that have all his stories annotated quite well. I have run across a couple over the years that the annotations are just really distracting. So, Pete Strakovich says they've never read a Lovecraft book, but they did pick up an omnibus at the thrift shop. Heard Dunsmith was a good starting point. Think they got the name wrong. Well, I would say that is actually a pretty good starting point because it's actually the short story that's now in the Call of Cthulhu Investigators Handbook and Keeper's Handbook. They replaced Call of Cthulhu because that was the story that was in those books, well, in the main book for decades. And it was like, well, actually, the Dunwich Horror is a better reflection of a Call of Cthulhu adventure than Call of Cthulhu is. Alrighty, Chris Lundgren says they love the BBC adaptation of the Star Wars movies done in the 70s and early 80s. Are you talking about PBS? Or I should say NPR? Because that would have been NPR that did that. Probably broadcast on the BBC. But if it was the audio series that starred Mark Hamill and Anthony Daniels, that was actually NPR who put that together. Because I remember I had them all on tape. I actually tape recorded them back when I was a kid. I had a tape recorder and I would record the TV and radio and stuff like that. What do you want? I was like 10. All right, let's move on to the next news piece, because arriving in late May is going to be the standalone adventure for Starfinder coming from Paizo Inc. I've got the deets on Mechageddon. Suit up, save the world. On a rugged planet crawling with colossi, terrifying kaiju that demolish cities with fearsome power, courageous mech pilots battle monsters, protect the world's people. As the war for control of planet Demelco rages on, a mysterious third power plots to use an ancient artifact to purge the planet of all life. It's time for Demelco's defenders to suit up against a new threat. This 184-page hardcover campaign tells the story of rookie mech pilots on Demelco, starting out as city defenders and venturing to the stars as the heroes become galactic celebrities. This epic campaign spans levels 3 to 18 and features new mechs, bonus adventures designed to slot into the campaign as interludes or stand on their own as one-shots, mech-sized maps, and more. Mechageddon is an exciting introduction to mech combat and the Starfinder role-playing game, packed with adventure content and new rules you can use to build the ultimate mech campaign. This 184-page hardcover will carry an MSRP of $59.99 when it lands in stores right around May 22nd. Kind of cool. I was like, wow, really? They hadn't really delved into mecha in Starfinder until now? Kind of surprised. But yes, Carolyn says they're looking forward to Starfinder 2nd Edition. The 3-action economy is really going to shine there. Carolyn points out BBC did the full cast Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, which were also fantastic. I had those on cassette long time ago, too. Very nice. Very nice. Let's move into our final news piece, because now available in print and PDF for the Paranoia role-playing game is Citizen in Name Only. And here's the scoop from Mongoose Publishing. The Computer Rules Alpha Complex, FCCCP, is a secret society that worships the computer as a god. What happens when one of the many FCCCP popes decides she can rule Alpha Complex better than a god? Why, she starts taking over one sector at a time. Starting in IAD sector, she will prevent a new Indigo clearance citizen from taking control of the sector's government in the central processing building. Then she will whip her followers into a frenzy over citizens in name only, people who look loyal but are really terrorists. All those sinos will be swept aside by truly loyal citizens, i.e. loyal to her, and she will remain in power. She even organizes grassroots protests against those damnable sinos. Wait, that sounds all too familiar. Citizen in name only, Sino is a complete mission for the Paranoia role-playing game. Players will have two troubleshooter teams, one that is anti-Sinos and one that is, well, not pro-Sinos per se, but at least against the CCP Pope's takeover. That's right. Players will literally fight themselves as the narrative flips between rival teams, including a climactic battle where players must plan the attack and the defense. Stealthily murdering your team leader has never been easier. The 32-page softcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $19.99, or you can grab just the PDF alone over at DriveThruRPG for $11.99. Very nice, very cool. Always good to see some new Paranoia stuff, and it's always good to see new Paranoia adventures coming out as opposed to just supplements. Tony Urquides says, shoot, looks like I'll have to wait a little longer for some new Pendragon news. I haven't received any Pendragon news. So I can't share any Pendragon news unless it's been sent to me from Chaosium Inc. I haven't heard anything. I thought supposedly after their convention, after their Chaosium Con that they held, I think, wasn't that in Michigan? I thought they were going to be releasing like the new Pendragon. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Just like they've got some new RuneQuest releases. I haven't heard anything. Now, I don't know. Maybe they're mad at me. Maybe they're mad at me because I called them out about the Horror on the Orient Express Kickstarter. That I was shocked that they just went with the usual suspects that you see on just about every flippin' Kickstarter for a board game these days. And didn't even talk to anybody who knows anything about Call of Cthulhu. You know, I don't know. Like I said, they might be pissed off at me. Don't know what to tell you outside of, I call it as I see it. You know that. I don't sugarcoat things. I say what I feel. I share what's on my mind. Anyway, yeah. If for some reason Chaosium decides they don't want to send me stuff anymore, it's not as if they're the only game company in town. So, on tonight's show, I am going to talk about a trio of science fiction role-playing games that I think actually deserve more attention or deserve more love. And interestingly enough, each one of them is in the process or has received a second edition, which just happened to be a coincidence. It wasn't something that's like, oh, there's a theme here. Kevin R. Smith says, anybody who'll kick Wizards of the Coast to the curb will do without anybody. Well, I can't do without everybody. Like, hey, everybody. It's like, I'm going to review this lens today for Panasonic. People will be like, what? The hell is that? Travis Williams is with us, as is GameCat. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Pete Strakulich is guessing Shadowrun? No. You'll find out. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission. Oh, yeah, actually, you know, I should have been talking about that. Should have been talking about DriveThruRPG and PayPal.me/The Gaming Gang. You guys know about that. I'll bring it up again tomorrow. Let's move on to that brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Baseball Joe was a slugger, you know. He made all the pitchers cry. He was frank to admit the reason he hit was T-O-D-D-Y.
Toddy.
That's the drink for me.
Toddy.
Try it, Pop, and see.
Toddy.
Man, oh man, that's the brand new chocolate malt in a can.
Yes, sirree. Try Toddy and you'll agree. Toddy is as delicious as the finest tasting soda fountain malted you ever had. Ice cold or steaming hot. Ask for Toddy.
Delicious.
On sale now at our snack bar.
Schmitz, one beautiful beer. Schmitz is a dry beer, a mellow beer, a hearty beer, blended into one beer, a light, bright, fun beer. Schmitz, one beautiful beer. Is a dry beer, a mellow beer, a hearty beer, blended into one beer, a light, bright, fun beer. Schmitz, one beautiful beer.
Schmitz of Philadelphia, one beautiful beer.
One truckload Wilkins regular coffee? Check.
What was that?
Wilkins instant coffee? Check.
We can't tell you what there's gonna be, but if you wanna see, you better stick around.
They're slugging it out in the middle of the ring. And there's a hard drive to the top. And Blue Bomber's block is knocked off. His block is knocked off?
Sure, but you can press it right back on again. It's just part of the action with the world's only boxing robots, the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx. Takes 2 managers to handle the fighters and lots of skill to win. With these control levers, you can keep your fighters in motion to duck punches. When you press this plunger, he throws a right uppercut. Press the other plunger and there's a left jab. Lots of exciting action and fun for everyone when the world's only boxing robots battle it out.
The Blue Bomber's looking for an opening. And there it is. That's the end of round 2.
Just push the flying head back and you're ready for round 3.
Boy, this is the greatest.
You bet. The world's only boxing robots. Get the Rock'em Sock'em Robots by Marx.
Nothing like little Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I hated that game. I was lousy. I was lousy at Rock'em Sock'em Robots. But then again, if I remember right, I think I only ever played against my brother, who was 2.5 years older than me. So he would have been probably 11, and I would have been like 8.5. So I'd be like, I guess he would probably win, right? Yes. I have to say, I had a different intermission video. And I always upload the videos to YouTube before I use them on the show because I want to make sure that I don't get a copyright flag. So had the video, uploaded it. Sure enough, got a copyright flag on one of the commercials. It's like, oh, okay, fine. So I swapped it out with a different commercial. And there were 2 commercials that were really funny. Really funny commercials. They were classic late 60s, early 1970s commercials. So I swapped out the first one and I thought, okay, now it should be all right. Uploaded it and I'll be damned if the second commercial also got flagged for copyright. I was like, really? And then I'm looking and it's like just a person's name. I don't know if you realize this, but there are a lot of people who claim copyright on YouTube videos who do not have those rights. But I figure, you know, and I'm not screwing around. So if you want to see a couple of really funny old TV commercials, in fact, I think one of them I shared before. A few years ago, I shared it. But it is Stan Friedman, and it's Banquet, Giblet, and Turkey. I think it's giblet gravy and turkey. It is so bizarre. It is really funny. And then the other is Gino's Frozen Pizza, but Gino's is spelled Geno''S. Pretty funny. Pretty funny. My good buddy Scott Weigel is with me. Somebody sent me an email. No joke. They sent me an email saying how I always mispronounce people's names. I'm like, what are you talking about? Matthew Constantine. I don't know. Constantine. Yes, it is Scott Weigel. I just thought I'd throw out that mispronunciation. It's like, come on. John Snyder's also with us tonight, too. So I guess, taking a look at the conversation that was going on, Kevin R. Smith is probably going to disagree with the third role-playing game that I feel is a science fiction role-playing game that deserves a bit more love, a bit more attention. And you'll probably be surprised by this third role-playing game when I get to it. Because you're probably thinking, hey, I thought that was a lot bigger seller than it is, I guess, huh? So tonight's topic, I am going to talk about a trio of science fiction role-playing games that I think really deserve more attention. And each of these is in some state of getting a second edition. So one of them already has a second edition. Another one just had a Kickstarter for a second edition. And the third has a second edition on the horizon. So the first science fiction role-playing game that I think you want to keep your eyes peeled on. Now, this is the one that just recently had a successful Kickstarter wrap-up, and it is Coriolis. And the first edition of Coriolis, a lot of people referred to it as an Arabian Nights in space. I wouldn't necessarily say that, although it did have a very Middle Eastern sort of design to it, as far as the character designs and the like fashions and stuff like that, which I thought was very unique. I thought that was very cool. Strangely enough, though, Free League Publishing seems to be moving beyond that. They're going to leave that behind for the second edition of Coriolis. It is going to advance a few hundred years, I believe, in the setting. And it actually has more of kind of a look of maybe borrowing from Mothership. It just seems like it's going to be kind of a different approach. So this Coriolis, this first edition, had a very unique vibe to it. And the adventure, in fact, this was the conclusion to the major adventure campaign. It was a 3-parter, was really epic. And the player characters were like in the middle of some really big goings on as far as the third horizon. I don't think it's going to be that way for this new edition. I think the new edition is essentially the player characters are setting off to explore ruins and like space hulks and things like that, looking for artifacts of previous horizons, which are kind of like eras. But I got to say, I'm very, very interested in checking out the second edition of Coriolis. We're probably about a year away. So I would take a guess that if I remember correctly, they were talking about spring of next year. I wouldn't be shocked if second edition Coriolis ends up being a Gen Con 2025 release. Would not be shocked at all. By all means, in chat, share science fiction role-playing games that you feel deserve more attention or deserve a bit more love. But they have to be games that you can still get. So you can't be like, oh, well, you know, what was the TSR one? I'm like, wait a second. Because I keep thinking of the like Alpha Knights and stuff. It's like, no, it's like, that's not it. Anyway, and yes, I know you can pick up PDFs of stuff, but we're talking about, you know, things that Star Frontiers. Thank you, John. Like, what the, I'm like, I kept thinking Galaxy something. And I'm like, no. See, the thing is, I was never really a big Star Frontiers fan. You know, of course, back in the day, I bought Star Frontiers and things like that. Never really got into it. But we've talked about this before, that I have, over the years, especially high school and, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, I used to pick up stuff all the time. Never ran it, just read it. So, Tony Urquidy says they have Death in Space waiting for their solo Cthulhu campaign to wrap. Well, who's holding that up? You better go blame the game master on that. Death in Space is pretty cool. I like Death in Space. Tessie Trekkie says fascist, new TSR or old TSR. I mean, original TSR. Jim Ward's game was Metamorphosis Alpha. In fact, Smoking Pots is with us in chat. Just mentioned Metamorphosis Alpha. Very cool. Chris Lundgren says Star Frontiers was their choice of game as far as science fiction. But half their friends, when Chris was younger, all they wanted to play was AD&D. Perkins Dearborn says, we played Gamma World a few times, but it got pretty weird. See, strangely enough, first edition Gamma World isn't all that bizarre. It just kind of became more bizarre. Tessie Trekkie says the two Osprey science fiction role-playing games, Those Dark Places and Pressure, are awesome. Scott points out they have boxes of 80s and 90s. Got it, read it, never played it. All original stuff. Yeah, Scott actually has quite a few items from our high school days of gaming, which is pretty wild. Kevin R. Smith says they would shout out Alternity, but they're not sure if the second edition is even in print anymore. Pete Stracklich says Mutant Crawl Classics. Yeah, I would say Mutant Crawl Classics is probably underappreciated. Yeah, I would say so. Second science fiction role-playing game that I feel deserves more attention is very recent. With its second edition, just came out just within the past few months. And it is the second edition of Fragged Empire. From Design Ministries, this is available by way of Modifius Entertainment. And I've got a review coming for this, so I'm not going to discuss it too much. But I got to say, this is a very unique setting. So it is a post-apocalyptic setting. And one of the things I find pretty interesting about this as well, now there are 3 hardcover books and some adventures that are out. I think the adventures might only be available in PDF. I haven't had an opportunity to take a peek at them. But one of the cool things about this is that it's supposed to be that there are all these various races that essentially were manipulated, or I don't want to, well, I guess I'll say it. Some of them were enslaved by this evil empire, and the evil empire has fallen. And now these various different species are returning to the stars. But one aspect that's really cool about Fragged Empire is that if you don't want to use that setting, there's enough here to take the core mechanics and apply them to any sort of science fiction role-playing setting that you'd like. Now, this is also a relatively crunchy mechanical system here, even though it only uses 3 6-sided dice. But there is crunch to this. And if you're looking for more tactical combat than you might see in some other role-playing games, you're going to want to take a peek at Fragged Empire 2nd edition. Like I said, I've got a review of this coming up very shortly. I should mention that the month of May is going to be Science Fiction Month with the Gaming Gang. Now, that doesn't mean all the videos are going to be science fiction releases. We're just actually going to kind of delve a bit deeper into science fiction this month than before, because I've got a lot of Doctor Who reviews, Fragged Empire 2nd edition reviews, and more coming. But I also have fantasy stuff too. So, but yeah, I wanted to point this out because the artwork is really well done. The layout is pretty, I will admit that the core mechanics took me a little bit of time. I had to reread a couple of times so that it all clicked. But I think that was more me. I think the layout is decipherable for most people. But yeah, definitely should take a peek at Fragged Empire 2nd edition. Once again, this is available through Modifius Entertainment. Of course, the PDFs are over at Drive-Thru RPG, and it is from Design Ministries. So there is some discussion of space opera from FGU. So Scott says they recall space opera, not sure if they had it or just tried playing with others. Now, I know I had it. I had space opera, and I had a couple of the supplements that came out for it. And I know I tried to run it once. But sadly, the Fantasy Games Unlimited releases, outside of maybe Bushido, weren't the most intuitive. But if you think about it, if you look at a lot of role-playing games back from late 70s, early 80s, there aren't too many that are intuitive. That's what really makes BX stand out, because you can pretty much understand how to run the game. Even Holmes' basic Dungeons & Dragons isn't all that well presented, as in, how do you play this, right? And that, I think, was a problem with space opera. And I think space opera also was trying to just throw everything and the kitchen sink into that role-playing game. Rob McCrae is with us. I believe this might be Rob's first time visit in chat. Good to see you. Flaming Heron is, did I say hello to Flaming Heron? He must have snuck in. I don't think I said hello to him. Let's see. So Rob says, would love to see a George Pal Universe role-playing game. That would be kind of interesting, huh? Probably won't happen, but yeah, that'd be so cool. Yeah, that would be pretty bizarre. You would have a lot of different, well, not all different genres, but a good variety of different things. First thing that pops in my head is War of the Worlds. I think that War of the Worlds could make for a pretty cool role-playing game. Matthew Constantine says they just read the 1984 box set of Ringworld from Chaosium. They'd fight a bear to get a nice contemporary second edition of that, but they're not holding their breath. I would think that probably has more to do with, because I think Larry Niven is no longer with us. I think it probably has more to do with his estate than anything else. Plus, I don't think Ringworld is all that popular anymore. I know it was back in the day, obviously, because it got a box set from Chaosium Inc. So we have got Gleam One XRX with us. Very cool. Welcome aboard. I think this might be a first-time visit for them as well. So they just ordered 1982, the Traveler book from eBay with Dust Jacket. Can't wait. If you are interested in the history of Traveler, there is a new book out from Shannon Appleseed, who did is it Dragons and Designers or Designers and Dragons? 4 volumes. I read the PDFs. I liked it quite a bit, although there was a phrase that he kept using over and over and over and over again that I was just like, oh my God, man, stop using that. It's like, why do they keep writing that? Stop it. But he has a history of Traveler that is out. And I think the title is Free Trader Beowulf. I think. Edge for Life is popping on in, says their Mothership Deluxe box set delivered last week. Yes, it's finally coming out. Finally getting out to backers. So that's pretty cool. Gleam One XRX says Larry Niven's still alive. Oh, wow. Okay. Matthew Constantine says, yeah, Niven's still alive. They just don't think Ringworld was popular enough in 1984, let alone now. Didn't Science, well, I'm trying to remember, wasn't it Sci-Fi? Didn't they try to do a series based on Ringworld, or did they do a movie based on Ringworld? Don't know. Pete Straklich says, I love the layout for Mothership. Excellence. All right, so I've got the third science fiction role-playing game. This is where Kevin R. Smith is going to take umbrage. Starfinder from Paizo Inc. So Kevin will probably say, come on, Starfinder's not science fiction, that's science fantasy. Not really. This is more science fiction with fantasy races, is kind of how it works with Starfinder. Now, of course, Starfinder is getting a second edition. The beta playtest is going to be available in PDF absolutely free come August, or you'll be able to purchase I think it's a soft cover, or it might be a hardcover. I don't know off the top of my head, at Gen Con. And funny enough, I know the playtest, the physical playtest book for Pathfinder 2nd Edition actually has become kind of a collector's item. So kind of thinking maybe try to pick that up when I'm at Gen Con this year. But as far as Starfinder goes, Starfinder, in my opinion, has far more character creation options than just about anything else out there. So Garland says it's got magic that makes it science fantasy, in their opinion, just like Star Wars. So you're saying the Force is magic? It's magical? Hey, come on. What did Arthur C. Clarke say about science and magic? Or even kind of a modern approach to the Lovecraft mythos is that those spells are in fact dreams in the witch house. Kind of gets into this where it's all just mathematical. The Laundry's all about that too. So anyway, I consider this science fiction, but I get where people are coming from. I really do. Anyway, tons of content out there for Starfinder. The new second edition is going to incorporate the 3-action economy. That was also mentioned a little bit earlier in chat. I think that is going to be a big, big deal for the second edition of Starfinder. What I'm kind of curious about is the stuff that's already come before. How compatible is it going to be? Perkins Dearborn asks me to show how thick the Starfinder core rulebook is. It is 400 and some pages, I believe. I might be wrong. It might be more than that. Let's take a look. Oh, it's about 528. About 528 pages. Now, once again, keep your eyes peeled because that playtest for second edition is on the horizon. Here's another thing that I should point out as far as Starfinder goes. If you watch Humble Bundle at least twice a year, you will see a bundle loaded with Starfinder releases, super, super inexpensive. We're talking, it's usually somewhere around 25 PDFs for $18, a donation of at least $18. But the funny thing is, a lot of folks think Starfinder really sells well. It does okay for Paizo Inc. It's not like a loser by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not as popular as you may think. And one of the reasons why you can tell that that is the case is, as right as rain, you get a Pathfinder Adventure Path every month. Something would really have to go wrong over at Paizo Inc. for you not to get an adventure path for Pathfinder in a given month. That is not the case with Starfinder. It was every couple of months, a new chapter would come out, and then a few months have gone by without any adventures coming out. And then Scoured Stars is a hardcover one-shot, although it's like 180 pages. Just did a news piece for Mechageddon. Once again, it's going to be a one-shot. What was that, 184 pages, I think I said during the news piece. So they really aren't doing the monthly releases for Starfinder anymore. And they did that for quite some time. I should also point out there's a beginner box for Starfinder. It's my understanding that second edition Starfinder will also have a beginner box. And I believe that is slated for 2025. So kind of cool. But I like Starfinder. I think here's one of the things that, like I pointed out with Fragged Empire second edition, I don't think people take into account enough is you can strip out all the fantasy stuff from Starfinder. You don't want magic in Starfinder, then there's no magic in Starfinder. You don't want goblins. You don't want space orcs. Take them out. You can just strip them right out. There is a really good science fiction core in Starfinder. And once again, when we get that second edition with the 3-action economy, I think that is what's going to really propel Starfinder in the future. Jeff Moore is popping on in, says Black Star by Lakeside Publishing is an awesome, lighter science fiction role-playing game. Welcome aboard, Jeff. Isn't Black Star, isn't that kind of a Star Wars sort of role-playing game? Doesn't the cover of it kind of have a Star Wars vibe to it? Because I think I've seen it. I think I've seen the PDF. I have not had an opportunity to take a peek, to check those out. Omenal says, hey, no space orcs or goblins, then we wouldn't have Warhammer 40K. Good point. Very good point. But I can see where people are coming from when they say, well, Starfinder's, that's space fantasy. I got to say, I think it's heavier into science fiction than people think. Jeff Moore says, yes, that is the case. Carolyn says, yes, they're really looking forward to the 3-action economy coming to Starfinder. Kevin R. Smith says, hard to tell if you're talking about Black Star or White Star. Isn't White Star kind of like a white box science fiction? Isn't it drawing its inspiration from white box D&D or brown box D&D, if you want to call it that? D&D, I guess we'll say. I think that's the case. Once again, I hope everybody realizes it's not as if I know every role-playing game that's out there, right? Because it's like, oh, certainly, well, that came out in 2011. It's like, Perkins Dearborn says, Dark Star is a fun, campy movie by John Carpenter, a student film. Dope! Yes, with the evil alien, which is essentially a beach ball. So Kevin R. Smith says it's based on Swords and Wizardry's white box, which is an OD&D retro clone. Flaming Heron points out, Jeff, you don't know every game out there? For shame. For shame. Garland says they are a big Pathfinder 2nd Edition fan. Been running it for a few years now. Matthew Constantine says, I know the system is controversial, but I really enjoyed playing Numenera. It's Dying Earth, which kind of makes it science fantasy. I don't have any beef with Monty Cook Games, regardless of last Thursday's show. Like, I share news from them all the time. Omenal says they played Numenera for several months, just not their taste, but wasn't bad. Keldon says you should know all 15,000 role-playing games. Slacker. Pete Strakolich says Dying Earth is awesome. If you're talking about the one that's designed for Dungeon Crawl Classics, they did a really nice job on that. In fact, they just released another adventure for it. So thankfully, it is being supported, just like the Lankmar Fafhrd and Grey Mouser that they did. Every once in a while, they have a new adventure come out from that. Matthew Constantine says, I don't even mean Monty Cook Games. Folks seem to really bounce off the system. Well, here's the thing. At least in my opinion. You find a lot of people who are used to playing 5e bounce off a lot of things because it's not 5e. Because the mechanics are not 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It takes a unique player, and I will admit, a unique game master, to be able to run a variety of systems or to be able to play a variety of systems. So when you have players who their experience with role-playing games, and it may not even be a vast amount of experience with role-playing games, come along and they try something different. And yes, Numenera is different. When I reviewed it way back in the day when the first edition came out, I liked it. I also pointed out it wasn't reinventing the genre as people were trying to portray it. But it is unusual. It does take a different approach to many things. And in some ways, a streamlined approach that some people possibly wouldn't like. But from my experience, I have seen people complain or they'll say, oh, I didn't like XYZ game because it's not what they're used to. It's not roll a D20, roll high, roll your damage dice. Okay, that's it. Oh, so I have DC I need to meet or exceed. Okay. Wow, I love this game. This game is great. Yeah, because 5e. It's the 5e rules. It's one of the reasons why you see some companies, Free League Publishing especially, release games that have their own core mechanics, like Symborum and the One Ring second edition. And then they port that stuff over to 5e, a la Ruins of Symborum and Lord of the Rings role-playing, because they know they can't get all the gamers to come over and try the other stuff. They have to release it for 5e. That's why, look at all the third-party publishers who do not create their own game systems, game mechanics. They just work on creating stuff that is going to be for 5e or 5e adjacent. Carolyn says, Adventures in Middle-earth is about the only way I might consent to run 5e again. Otherwise, I'm done with it. Omanal says, I want to always find new systems, new and innovative mechanics I find interesting. So do I. I agree. And I am also one of these game masters who likes to crib from other games. If I stumble across something and I'm like, hey, yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. I have absolutely no issue stealing it. Just how it is. Just how it is. All right, so on tomorrow's show, we will talk about, is there really a game master shortage? Is there? I know this is something that kind of popped up last week in chat. We will talk about it tomorrow. And so prepare yourselves, because I want you to tell me what you think too. Also, if you are watching this after the fact, you didn't have an opportunity to take part in chat, by all means, in the comment section, let me know what you think is a science fiction role-playing game that you believe deserves more attention, deserves more love. More people should be playing it, or at least more people should be checking it out. Nathaniel Cares is with us in chat. Looks like we had a really good chat tonight. So thank you very much, everybody, for popping on in. So that's going to be it for tonight's show. Of course, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central, right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as my unboxing and first look at the 25th anniversary edition of For the People from GMT Games. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you took part in chat, thank you very much. If you were watching live, thank you as well. But bigger thank you if you took part in chat, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company too. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, they don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you very much for watching any of the videos here on the YouTube channel. Of course, I will be back next month. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer, and as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.